everyone, welcome back to Fabric Dreamer Chats. I just love talking to inspiring women, and my guest today is Georgie Irvine. She's from my hometown Mildura and she's a fellow fashion lover. Georgie is a stylist, she's a mum, and she is also a sober mentor. So I'm really curious and excited to get to know a little bit more about her world, what she's into, and how her styling venture is going. So let's get Georgie on. All right, welcome Georgie. It's so nice to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been really excited all day to chat.
All day, and it's only midday.
I know. I have been up since 5:30, so it's been a long morning.
Yes, I hear you. I'm looking forward to picking your brains about all the many things that you do, but I guess the easiest place to start is that you are a stylist, and I sort of want to go there, like how you got into that. You've recently started your own business and your styling, so why don't you just tell us about how you got into it?
I was really thinking about this today, and there's sort of two parts to me becoming a stylist. Now, the first bit is when I was younger and dressing Barbie dolls and dressing my younger sister up and popping her like in bridesmaids dresses and things like that and taking photos. So there's sort of that side of things. And then there was quite a gap where through high school years, I was quite bigger and a lot bigger than my two best friends. They always looked beautiful no matter what they wore. And I would really struggle with that. So every time it came time to go out and things, I would feel really flat and really like quite sad and quite deflated. Luckily, I had a best friend who would just take me shopping and help me in any which way she could to feel good about myself. So I feel that there's that gap in the middle that then brought me sort of full circle going, wow, once I got had my kids and got my health back on track and was feeling really good about myself, I then found power in clothes and how they made me feel and how I was able to represent who I was through clothing. So all of a sudden that became really important to me. So then when actually about 10 years ago, I joined the Australian Style Institute, or I got on the info page and wanted a package. So back then snail mail came, and I actually put that aside and I went back to working as a receptionist, which I had been since I was 19 for a family business. And I absolutely adored that job. So I had kids and went back to work there. And because I love that so much, I sort of put the styling on the back burner. Then, like lots of people will say, COVID hit. So I sort of had that space in my head to go, because I stopped running around after the kids all the time. And I sort of decided, okay, well, maybe I'll have a crack at this. And always that little person on my shoulder was saying, at the time, so I would have been 41, I'm 43 now, and that little person on my shoulder would have been going, you're probably a little bit too old to get into personal styling, all those things. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to have a crack, because what's the worst that can happen? I don't succeed or I don't like it, So that's when I went, I actually enrolled in the Australian Style Institute, which I'd done some training for the personal styling. And that sort of led me to starting my own business. Because I worked as reception for a family business, they retired, or they were retiring. And I thought, perfect time to sort of shut that door and open up in the styling business. And amazing support from my husband was like, just go for it. Like, what's there to lose? So that's how I've ended up where I am today in the personal styling space, mainly for me.
Yeah, I love that. I think I find a lot of encouragement in listening to women who are, just that little bit older than myself, where nothing's set in stone. Like, I think motherhood turns everything upside down a little bit with our career and our confidence. Some people it can work the other way, but I think if you've had a dream, sometimes it can interrupt that, and you've got to learn to juggle it a little bit. But I like to see women that aren't afraid to have a fresh start or try something new in their 40s, because we've sort of grown up with this thing that you've got to have it all sorted out all the time, and it's not true. It's a journey.
So true, Anna, and you are an example of, and I have watched you try different directions and stop and change, and you've had your 3 boys. I've got that right, haven't I? You've got your
Yeah.
3 boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to go, well, guess what? Like, you can move somewhere else, or you can change direction, and you can change your business name. You can do this, and it doesn't mean failure. It just means you want to try something new. And often, if you allow yourself to grow, that's where you can adapt and change. It's when you try, if you stay in that mentality of, like, for me, well, I'm a personal stylist now and that's where I need to stay. No, I don't. Like, if it's no longer feeling right for me, then I'm going to try something new. And I think you just keep opening doors, and as soon as you open those doors, a new one opens. But yeah, you're a really good example of that, leading by that, Anna. So yeah, I have watched and I have learnt from you.
Oh, so this is about you though today.
even though you're not as old as me.
I'm nearly there. I'm chasing your tail, Georgie.
I like it because once I get to 40, I feel like everyone starts to catch up. Once they start hitting their late 30s and their 40s,
totally.
We're all 40 together, even if I am 5 years older.
So I'd love to hear some of your client stories, and I think transformation and that point where people start to really understand how they can feel good or transformed or express themselves through clothing. And it's sort of like, like people that may have said, oh, I'm not really into clothing, I don't know what to wear. I think it's a skill that you can learn, and I'd love to hear about some of your stories, actually.
Yeah, that is my ultimate favourite part of personal styling, is helping women feel confident in clothes. And that's what I get so much joy out of. Now, one of my beautiful clients, I took her on the styling journey, and it's not really just taking someone shopping for clothes, as you would know. It's getting to know them, getting to open up a little bit, getting them to understand the barriers around what they may wear, why they wear this, why they won't, etc. And I had a beautiful client that at the end of our session, so we done the whole session with her. So I'd done a style consultation, which is around an hour chat, just getting to know each other, working out some styles that she may like, etc. Then I went into her wardrobe, and then we went for a shop and filled those gaps that she didn't have in her wardrobe. Now, she was a new widow, and she said to me, I can get a bit emotional, Anna, with stuff like this, so you'll have to bear with me. But she said to me, I just sort of hired you thinking, I'll help you because you're starting out in your new business, but didn't really expect too much from it. And she said, I helped her learn how to be her new self, because she was swollen up in the grief and in being a widow, that she didn't really know who she was anymore and where she wanted to go. And she found she was able to showcase that through clothes. And that was probably that. I mean, every client I find I have a real connection with by the end of it. But that just stood out to me, because that's why clothes can be so important, and they aren't superficial,
Yeah.
It just gave her that confidence to say, okay, I want to step out into the world again, and I'm going to step out this way. I don't need to step out in the way that I'm expected to, or, the way that society tells me to. I'm just going to do it how I feel inside. And I was able to help her with that journey. So that is just, that's why the job's so amazing.
That's beautiful, because I think, you can get stuck on like, and stereotypes don't help, but like, it's sort of funny watching groups of girls that hang together and they dress the same. And then, so it's sort of, there's a barrier there with, I must wear this to belong, instead of going, how does this make me feel? What do I love? And I think that's when shopping becomes so much easier, is when you have identified, like, what do you even like? Do you have like a process that you take people through that you could share with some of the common questions you ask? Like, how do you get this information?
Well, it depends on the client, and that's what I love about it too. You've got to I just try to adapt to the client. Some will come and they'll be fairly closed off. Often by the end of the process, they'll open up. But it's generally with the style consultation, which is just where we sit down and we chat all things about them. So we'll work out things like what they do for work, what they do on weekends, whether they have children or not. Because obviously, if they're just at home running around after kids, you're not going to dress them in a suit every day. So you just really concentrate on that. I think the most powerful thing is I do what's called style categories. And there's a list of categories that they relate to. So, for example, it might be like stylish might be a category. And I'll show them a group of photos and they will tick what they like about that photo. If they don't like anything, they don't tick anything. And then I sort of give them style categories at the end of that process. And that really opens their mind up to, wow, like, for example, I didn't think I liked wearing a print, but I've ticked all these good things and why I like that print, you know, so it just opens up their eyes. And I think just chatting from the beginning to the end of the style consultation, people can really open up because they understand it is about them and it is about growth. And, you know, you ask them things like, what's holding you back with going shopping, you know, things like that. So, yeah, it's just, so it is a style consultation and it does, like, we just usually chat for about an hour or so, but I find that's where people really open up and they really become, they can become vulnerable in that state, which then leads to growth with the wardrobe makeover that I do and then the shop that I do also.
Yeah. So I love that. And you know what I love as well? I love that. Sounds like I love a lot of things, but what I really appreciate, I don't know how to word this, and I think the simplest thing for me to say is that as a person in fashion, I champion other country chicks in fashion because I think we have a way, and I love your groundedness and your down to earthness that I think your clients would love as well, because fashion can feel, the way it's sort of being constructed in a lot of places, particularly the media, is that it's a bit unreachable, or it's just a bit too fancy, or it's a bit too, I could never do that because I'm not cool, or all of those things that I think a lot of us growing up in small towns probably feel at some point. Has there been any of that sort of tall poppy or imposter syndrome in your fashion journey, or are you...
A lot of clients come with not a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
And that's why they hire me. Because if they had the confidence to dress, they wouldn't need a personal stylist.
That's right.
So I love that. So I just work with building that client up along the way with their confidence and teaching them those little tools. So I think because I'm not personally a label girl, I chuck all labels and I chuck all fashion rules out the window, as I know you do. You can bring a client back to basics and you can really make them feel settled by going in with that outlook, because a lot of times, as you said, the client will come and think fashion's about lots of money. It's about wearing a label, and that's the only way fashion is, but it's not. It's about style, and as we know, style is showing who you are through clothes. So that's, I think, where I love that connection. And I love to say, and the first question I'll get asked a lot is, will you want to dress me like you dress? Which is a no way. I want to help them dress. I mean, if they want to dress like me, my job's really easy because I can just go and pick things that I like to wear. So that's really easy. But majority of clients don't. They have their own style and we work through that. So that's the beauty of it. With the imposter syndrome side of things, when I first come home from my training and I launched my business, I was in a coffee shop and I was actually going to work as a receptionist at the time, but I still love dressing up as reception. Like, I think that's first point of call. So I always like to look nice. And a man said to me, what do you do for work? And I said, oh, I'm a receptionist. He said, oh, I thought you must be in fashion or something. And I couldn't actually say the words out of my mouth. I'm a personal stylist. It took me a while to get that in my head that I could say confidently, I'm a personal stylist. I think once I built up my hours with my clients and I knew that I was giving each client the outcome that they deserved, I was then able to say I'm a personal stylist. But it did take me a while of that self-belief, I think, like anything. And
I still have a very blank, like somebody asked me what I do and I don't really know how to answer. I think it's because I do a lot of different things, but I feel really, there's a level of, I don't know what it is. What is it? what is it in the fashion? You there's a block. Like to
Yes,
say, oh,
there
I'm
is
a
a lot.
graphic designer, there's
Mm,
sort of nothing, it's easy. I think as soon as it's
yeah,
fashion, I don't know what it is, or if it's me, or if
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's
No,
interesting.
and I think that there's just so many levels of fashion
Yes.
as well and style. And if for our age group or my age group, we grew up like with magazines. So fashion was what was in a magazine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that scares people as well. But part of the training that I did do as well, so I'd done my personal styling training and then I'd done what was called a master's course, and that was a lot of public speaking and being able to sell yourself as a personal stylist and be able to explain what you actually do quite well. Because as you said, it can be icky waters. And if people don't, people, and I feel people generally won't understand what I can do as a personal stylist until they come on the journey with me. And
Yeah.
they go, I had no idea that it was going to be about confidence and about growth and opening new doors and going for a new job or being a better mum because you feel, more confident in yourself and in your clothes. There's so many elements to personal styling. And I
Yeah.
sometimes I try and explain that, but it's not until you come on that journey that you really go, wow, there's so much value in that,
Yeah.
because you're not just dressing someone, you're making them feel good about themselves.
Yeah. And you're giving them options of how they can navigate times of the week, the day, seasons in life, like whatever. Because I know I prefer to be. I've always loved wearing dressier things because I like it. So I struggle with dressing down. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me to just hang out in a tracksuit, it's never going to happen because I don't feel good in a tracksuit. So
Yeah,
it's about finding the right pieces that I can lounge around in and bum around in, but I still feel like myself. And for me, that's sort of maybe like a high-waisted floral flare with like a little
yeah,
jumper or something that's
yeah,
stretchy, but it's not exercise leggings all the time and so I still
yeah,
feel like me. And that's something that
yes,
it takes a while to figure out where you can
yeah,
feel,
exactly,
yeah. It's, hey,
yeah.
something I really want to have time to talk about is and this is a little bit of a different direction, but your sobriety journey, which I've been watching from afar and just like going,
Yeah.
I think I've reached a point where I'm like, I need to hit her sobriety curious tab.
Yeah, it's
Tell us
so
about
good.
like, I know you could talk about it for ages, but like, what's that journey? Where did that start? The mindset and how? Yeah, I know you're a mentor now, so take us on that
Yeah,
journey. Love to hear about it.
yeah, yeah. This is where I could go on forever, but long story short, I had just built up my drinking over the years. So I'd started drinking when I was pretty much 14. So, when I was growing up, that was the thing to do. That was the cool thing to do. You were able to come out of your shell when you drank. So I just found I sort of attached onto that. And then I got to a point about 4 years ago where I became sober curious, but not in the sense that I thought I would ever give up alcohol, because I almost had that attachment of that's me and I drink and I'm a wine drinker and that's who I am. But there was a little inkling there about 4 years ago going, doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right anymore with drinking. And then over the 4 years, I sort of not research, but I was openly sober curious. So I would listen to a podcast. And then I got to a point during COVID where I was drinking way too much. I was drinking every night and I was drinking around a bottle of wine, and I could feel my self belief slowly slipping away. I'd worked really hard over the since I had my son. So he's 15, he's almost 16. And I put on a lot of weight and I had carried a lot of weight, through my teenage years. I worked extremely hard to get myself to a place of self-belief, be able to look at myself in the mirror and be proud of who I was. Drinking too much was stripping me of that. It was taking that away and I was feeling like I was drowning, and I kept trying to moderate. So, that stage of I might just have a glass tonight, but Friday night I might have 3 glasses, or Saturday night I might have 4 glasses. And I found there was a real battle there. And I'm like, what's the point of this? So I then dived into the research. I got really educated on the alcohol. But my main thing was, as much as for health reasons, now I'm so pleased I gave up. Mine was more about how I was feeling about myself internally.
Yeah.
I was trying to launch my styling business. I was trying to be active on Instagram, and I was also wanting people's okay before I posted things. So I would almost like send a photo through to my best friend, who is the most beautiful chick, down to earth chick in the whole wide world, and for her to go, I love that. And then I would feel like I had permission to post. So that self-belief was gone, and I was wanting outside people telling me whatever I was doing and whatever I was choosing was okay, versus me going internally going, this is okay. So that then got me to go, I tried to moderate and I couldn't, unfortunately, which is a very common story with a lot of women that drink, like I was drinking. You can try, but you just end up being back to a bottle a night. So I just come to the realization that enough was enough, Anna, and I needed to have a crack at a life of sobriety. Little did I know the joy it would bring me, and it brought back my self-belief. I no longer have to ask anyone for permission for anything. I can look deep inside and know what's right and what's not right for myself, and I'm confident enough in that. So that's a long story short. And I joined a group called Thrivalist Sobriety, which was just, I was committed to sobriety. But if you think about being from the age of 43 to 14 and how many years you drink, I can't quite do the sums right now, your brain is trained that that's what you will do in a social situation. That's what you will do when you cook a barbie. That's what you will do when you cook tea. It's what you do when you go to a wedding. That's what you do when you go to a wake. So everything is revolved around alcohol. So I knew that to get it right and to stay on track, I was going to need extra support and extra tools. So I then joined Thrivalist Sobriety, and that's the crew now that I've been invited to mentor for.
That's amazing. That's so, as I say, I've watched the journey, and I've then listened to a few podcasts on, like, maybe it's on naturopathy, but they've had a guest in a similar situation. And I think as a consumer of social media and wine, you can easily, and a mum, the stories we see are like it's like a reward system for parenthood and for a bad day or a good day. So like any time is a good time. And then I've been noticing, I'm not a big drinker, but because I think something's happened with hormones after kids and I can't handle more than like 2 glasses, but I just feel it's like I've had 2 bottles. I feel awful. And again, it's the allure of like, oh, reward, it's a beautiful Friday night, we'll sit out, I'll have a wine, and it feels good for 5 seconds. And then the next day I'm like, why did I do that again?
Yeah. So true.
And now we're going to that age of going to the perimenopause and the menopause, and how I think you posted something the other day where people arrive in their 40s with too much alcohol, and sort of alcohol is our crutch, and it's doing nothing for our hormone health, and yet we need all of this. It's such a big So I'm so inspired because I can tell you're just loving life. And what have you noticed health-wise? What have you noticed?
Well, I lost that weight quickly that I put on, and I don't necessarily the weight was getting put on due to not only the drinking, it was because I was eating shit the next day. I was overeating at dinner because I'd eaten wine, so you're not making the right choices, because when you drink alcohol, part of your brain will switch off. So that the part of the brain that will tell you things that are real, that sort of shuts down. So I would overeat at dinner time, then I would feel sluggish the next day, so I would eat shit all day long. So then I was putting on weight. So that came off really quickly. I've always exercised, and I exercised when I drank a lot too. But that's just a different. I have different feelings when I exercise now. So the weight loss, clearer skin, better sleep. My hair's growing again. I didn't realize that was obviously to do. My hair was just getting to a point that it wouldn't grow anymore, and it used to grow a lot. Little did I realize it was obviously my body was processing all the alcohol, that it wasn't able to help things grow and things bloom and things blossom, which is what sleep usually does. But when you're drinking alcohol, you're not sleeping properly. So your body doesn't have a chance. And that's why with the hormone side of things, our body doesn't have a chance to deal with all the change of the hormones when we're drinking wine, because it's too busy dealing with the wine
Yeah.
or your alcohol of choice. So then when you go to sleep and your body tries to process your hormones and the change of hormones, which is where I'm at the moment, like the perimenopause, it has no chance of doing that for you naturally, because I was feeling it with wine. So yeah, better sleep there, better connections with people, just self-belief, joy in every day. And I just feel free. I feel free of that alcohol trap. Yeah.
And how's it been socially? Have you had a lot of support, or has it been a little bit strange with friends that, that's what you do and suddenly you're not? And has there been anything like that?
I've been so lucky, because that is a very common story with women that give when they've been, because I'm probably one of the biggest drinker out of, a lot of my friends and things. I was one of the biggest drinkers, but I've had amazing support from my friends and from my mum and my sister, and all people that mean the world to me have just been supportive from word go. I've often said that is because I was really determined in my decision and strong in my decision. I wasn't wishy-washy and I didn't try and hide it. I was just like, this is what I'm going to do to better my life, because I'm feeling like crap, because alcohol is making me feel like crap all the time. So I think I still would have had that support, because I've got the most beautiful friends. But I think because I was so sturdy in my decisions, that I was like, well, this is what I'm choosing. So you can either support me or, it's your choice not to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really good. We're going to run out of time, but I would love to talk about just your role as a mother and having a daughter, and what that's been like to bring Rio. It is Rio, isn't it? Your daughter?
Yeah, it is.
Along on your fashion journey, and she's being able to see her mum go through these transformations on a career and a personal front, and what that means to you, and how, I guess,
Oh wow.
I think it's just really important that.
I'm a bit of a sook. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. What's it like to raise a daughter in today's, modern world, while you're figuring out your stuff, and you want to set her up with her own sort of internal compass, I guess.
Yeah. So she's 13 now. And two things come to mind. I've always taught both the kids, because I've got a son who's 15 too, but he won't like me talking about him as much as my daughter will let me talk about her. So I'll refer to her, but both, I've sort of brought my son and my daughter up similarly, which is, it's okay to have your boundaries and say no if things don't feel right for you. And especially with Rio, is to follow her heart and what feels right to her, and you don't have to follow what everyone else is doing. And I'm finding at the age of 13, I can look at her sometimes and she's teaching me things, because she's able to say to her friends, I've seen them all week at school, I really don't feel like hanging out on the weekends. And she's able to say that to her friends, and her friends are able to respect that part of her, where often at the age of 13 and 14, things can get bitchy and can get messy. But I'm really proud of that, because I've always said to the kids from a very young age, just be yourself, do what's right for you, and you don't have to follow what everyone else is doing. And I'm seeing with Rio's fashion, which is really cool, because she has got a beautiful style, and it's not because she's following a brand or what everyone else is wearing. The time she will do what everyone else is wearing is if she thinks that that's what she likes. She's not necessarily doing it because she's just being a follower. And it's okay at that age. I know I definitely was a bit of a follower at that age. The sports girl t-shirts came in and I'd grab the sports girl t-shirt. But she's really finding her style by just being herself and just going with what she likes. And that's a beautiful thing to watch at the age of 13, because it's her first year of high school. And just knowing her boundaries and being able to find a voice and find a way to say things to her friends without offending, but also if it doesn't feel right for her or she doesn't want to go, she's happy to say no versus saying yes just because she feels like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of her for that, because at 13 to be able to do that blows my mind, you know, because often you don't learn that until your 40s.
No, and I think fashion's a really safe way to take risks for young girls and practice that ability of owning your choice and being different, standing out or experimenting. And it's just fashion. It's, you know, it's a safe way to express yourself, and I think that's awesome. How do people find you? How do people follow along your journey?
So I'm on Instagram, and I've also got a website. But if you go on Instagram, I'm at Styled by Georgie, and then like I have the link straight to my website. So with any, you know, frequently asked questions to do with my styling and things, that's all there. So that's the best place. And you can literally reach out to me anyway. You know, if anyone wants to reach out, I actually don't care how they reach out. I don't care what they want to ask me. I'm a real open book. I love chatting to people. I love making people feel like, because often they'll want to hire a stylist, be really frightened about what I can, you know, bring to their life or whatever. So I love just for the questions to come in, and I can, yeah, set their mind at ease and take them on the beautiful journey. Yeah.
So good. Thank you so much, Georgie. I love chatting to you.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.